You are a mentor to the people who witness you living your life, whether you know it or not. You are teaching the people around you. Are you an example, or are you a warning? Think about the unexpected teachers in your own life. Have they shown you what to do or what not to do? Who have you learned from, and what have you learned from? These questions from one of my favorite books that I've referenced on previous podcasts, Finding the Way by Siri Lindley. These are her words from page 228 of her book. And I had to stop when I read those pages, and she always has journaling prompts at the end, and really think about the people I've learned from, the most powerful learnings I have had from observing other people, and what I have learned about myself in just these last 90 days that my life has been shifting. So that's what we're going to get into today. I am going to target, three different people that I have learned from and probably have influenced my most recent decisions the most, and then help you and guide you through some of these prompts as reflection and action steps. So let's get started. This episode of Life's Next Lesson Plan is sponsored by Literatus. Literatus is more than just a bookstore. It's a hub for connection, community, and incredible stories waiting to be discovered. Rather than sending my listeners to big online retailers, I want to encourage you to support this beloved local business. Whether you're picking up a book we've discussed on the podcast or browsing their website for your next literary adventure, Literatus has you covered. Every week on the podcast, we dive into books that inspire, challenge, and transform. And now I'm thrilled to share a way for you to get those books while supporting a local treasure. Literatus, right in my own town of Watertown. By shopping at Literatus, you're not just buying a book. You're investing in our community. And who doesn't love the smell of fresh pages while you sip one of their handcrafted drinks, enjoying the charm of your local bookstore visit? Stop in today at 401 Main Street in Watertown, or visit their social media or website to order online. Let's support the places that make our town special. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Life's Next Lesson Plan. I'm Rachel, and I started this podcast during my 29th and last year as a high school teacher. The goal of my work with Life's Next Lesson Plan, as well as my Live and Learn Patreon, is to create a connection where we are all teachers. We all have lessons and stories to share that can help others. I'm so fortunate to be able to extend the four walls of my previous classroom to an unlimited audience, where we can all learn from each other. And my guests are some of the most inspirational people with the best stories and lessons I know, which is why I want to share them with you. Their words are something everyone should hear. It is my hope that you are able to take away something from each episode to apply to your own life, whether that be a career search, path to a more fulfilling life, or new ideas on current topics. Before I start this solo episode today, I just have to share, it is really fascinating to me what has transpired in my life since starting this podcast. And it's not even so much the decision that I made to kind of change the trajectory of my life, but I've always kind of shared things on social media, but pulled back a little bit in the past recent years. But now with this podcast, I'm just going to say it. I've been getting phone calls, texts, and emails from people going through major changes. I just got off the phone 5 minutes ago with someone who's going through a major change and wanted some advice. And just last week, when I recorded a podcast, another major life shift I was talking to this person about. And 2 weeks before that, someone else reached out to get together just about like being at a crossroads. Days before that. I mean, I love it. It's crazy. It's community, right? And it just goes to show that like we are all, no matter what age we're at, we're all struggling with big decisions, no matter what they are about, relationships, career, family. I mean, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because as I sit here by myself talking into my computer, you don't really expect, that to build community. Although I know when I listen to podcasts, you sort of form your own little community with the people, who listen to the same podcast or the podcaster. But it's just been, I think, one of the most unexpected and my favorite parts of podcasting. So I just have to say that. Thank you so much for reaching out and for sharing, your life journey with me and your questions. And I'm always here. You have many ways to reach me on social media or email, or those of you who have my phone number. Absolutely. Like, we can work on this together. And I think, I'm a pretty straight shooter, and again, probably don't make all the best decisions, but I'm trying to make the best decisions for me. So that kind of ties in with what I wanted to talk about today, because I'm like taking my time through Siri Lindley's book because I love it so much. I don't want it to end. And there's so much to dig into because, as I said, she has questions for you to contemplate at the end of every chapter, and they're so good. Like, I really like to sit and think about them. And sometimes we've done our sauna talks, which I put on social media a little bit, but Brett and I, because there's not much that you can do in a sauna, but, I usually bring like a couple questions to talk about, or we have something in our lives that we need to talk through. And sometimes, after I'm done reading her book, I'll have been thinking about something and wondering what he would think of the question, from Siri Lindley's book. So a lot of, what I talk about on the podcast becomes part of our sauna talks, which I would like to share some of that either on here, or I think that might become a monthly installment on Patreon, our sauna talks, because we do have some great conversations in the sauna when there's really nothing else that you can do but connect and sweat together. So, all right, today, this will be another pretty personal one, and I usually like to save these for Patreon, but it is what it is. I hope that you can take something from it, but I've chosen kind of three people, or one is a pair of people that I have, learned either what to do or what not to do, or basically have kind of guided, I would say, definitely my recent decisions, like within the last year, for sure. As I was reflecting with Siri's prompts, we're going to talk about that. And then, just kind of the last 90 days and then the next 90 days, I think would be good for us, for you to kind of look at that overall, who have been the biggest influences on me. And that's going to change. I mean, I've lived 51 years, so some are more recent than others. And then, I've had a big past 90 days, and we'll have a very big next 90 days. And just kind of think about that in the frame of your life as well. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I'm going to start with my absolute number one, like hands down, biggest teacher of my life. Anybody who knows me probably knows immediately who I'm going to say, but that is my Grandma Weibel. And anybody who knows her, any single person, whether you're related to her or met her once or twice, everybody will say the same exact thing about her. Most amazing woman who ever lived and walked the earth. This woman had 10 children, lived on a farm, in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And eventually they moved down the road from this farm into a house. I look back now, that house seemed so big when I was younger. It had one bathroom. And granted, not all 10 kids lived there at the same time, but if her kids weren't there, her grandkids were there. You know, it was full all the time. And I think, upstairs and we had a boys' bedroom and a girls' bedroom upstairs because she had 5 boys and 5 girls. And the boys' bedroom could sleep 1, 2, 3, 4 people, enough beds. And the girls' room could sleep, I think, 3, and there was a baby crib in there. So then their bedroom was downstairs with the living room and kitchen and 1 bathroom. And I don't ever remember anybody griping about it, which just is crazy today. And I think that's, kind of part of like what she taught me is just like simple is fine, right? Like, and the importance of home is that you're all together and you get a feeling when you're there. Anybody who visited their house, definitely you're greeted with food. You're greeted with warmth and welcoming. And, that's what her house was. She was the most selfless person. There's nobody who could argue that. The kindest person who truly, as a human, showed unconditional love. Unconditional love. Bar none. Never judged. I don't know a single person like that, truly, today. And that's why everybody loved her so much. And, some of my cousins who obviously there are a lot of because she had 10 children, some have named their children after her, rightfully so. I thought about doing that as well. The way my life worked, which we'll get into a little bit in this episode because of another choice that I chose as a teacher today, but I lived with my grandparents in that house and for sure one of my aunts part of the time, the youngest of the 10, until I was in kindergarten, from what I can remember. I don't have a lot of memories because I don't have a lot of memories of my mother before kindergarten because my mom had me right out of high school. And I didn't know my biological dad. So I was tooling around with my grandparents, from birth until my mom got married when I was in kindergarten, and I was adopted under that person's name. And my grandma taught me everything. I mean, all life skills, how to tie my shoes, how to read, but mostly just how to love. And, I remember going to church with them every Saturday night. I remember my grandpa trying to entertain me with these weird, they were like green, I don't know. I don't even know if you can call them mints. But, that was a ritual. I was basically like another one of their kids. And so those are my very, very early memories. And I'm getting emotional talking about it just because I learned the most, I think, about being a mother and just how to treat people and, I don't know, unconditional love from her. And again, that the most important things in life are simple because I don't ever once remember them going out to eat. Every meal was cooked from home, and she cooked every meal in front of you while you stood there, or she got the leftovers out. Never griped about it. ever. I mean, I did a lot of dishes there, rightfully so, as I should have, to help. But setting the table and, I mean, just always felt so safe. I remember during very difficult parts of my life, people say, and maybe, tongue in cheek, but think of your safe place or your happy place. And there are many, many times growing up that I just pictured myself in that house, and I can still picture it in my mind. And that was my safe place. And because of the way that my life went, I went back there. I mean, when I would come home from college, oftentimes I stayed there for various reasons we won't get into. But yeah, I mean, and bless her, lived into her 90s, died in her sleep, as an angel should. But I really, really, when I was making this decision about, what to do and agonizing over, money being left on the table and life being short, I really thought about her. And, you ask many different people for advice. And if I could ask her for advice, I knew what she would have said. And, have a roof over your head, have someone who loves you, show other people love, be happy. And that's why I chose her as my number one teacher. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to having influential grandparents. I know when my students would write a paper where they would interview an elder, a lot of them said that they chose a grandparent because of their values that they had shown them. And I know that's probably a pretty popular choice. So my second choice, oddly enough, I'll explain the connection, but kind of is related. I don't know. I couldn't explain this feeling. This is going to sound really dumb, but I'm going to say it anyway. I saw a quote from someone who had said, that they felt that they had met the love of their life, and they felt that their grandmother had sent them to her. She'd said this. And I was like, okay. This was like in the last 2 months that I saw this. That is exactly how I feel about meeting my significant other, Brett. And I really have to say, I got it wrong many times in my life, and we get older and we get wiser, 100%. And I didn't grow up with the best role modeling or stability necessarily outside of my grandparents and some aunts. But yeah, Brett is my second choice, especially for recent decision making. I've never met anybody like him. I honestly 100%, and I've told this to friends, from the first times I came to his house, I felt the same exact feeling. I'm getting emotional again. The same exact feeling that I felt when I was at my grandparents' house. I've never, ever, ever felt that way anywhere else. And I don't know how to explain it. And it is because he has a lot of those same values that I learned from my grandmother. And he's, a 46-year-old man. So that's kind of funny to say, but he believes less is more. He has seen things through his time in the military that make him feel that way. He would always say, I saw people living on landfills who were happy. That was their life. And they woke up every day with a joy for life and were good to people. And look what we have in the United States, and what he fought and risked his life in Iraq for us to have. And it's such a perspective shift to talk to someone who's lived like that and seen those things. And it's almost difficult then to see the consumerism, the materialism, which I definitely will admit I prioritized at parts of my life. You know, we all fall into, especially with social media, look what these people have. Look where these people are going. Look, look at the house they bought or the car they bought. Holy crap, who cares? Who cares? What you really should be looking at is, look at how happy they are together. Look at how wonderful they treat each other. Look at the quality of their life together. And this has been such a good shift for me. And just even, going back a little bit, because I've had this conversation with someone recently he has taught me never to settle, because he never settled. He was never married. He never lived with anyone. He doesn't have children. And, at 40, whatever age he was when we met, 43, 44, he just always said, society pressures you to take so many paths, and I never felt I had met anybody that I wanted to marry. I had never met my soulmate. I never met anybody that I would want living in my house. And I didn't feel pressure or a time clock, to do that. So that's refreshing. But also just less is more. You can have so much joy through simple things in life, and really looking at what is important to me in life. And going back to the train of thought I was on before, I had said to somebody, if you would have, talked to me after my divorce in 2020, I told people I will never date again. There is no way I will get married again. And people were like, oh, okay, sure. But thank goodness, not thank goodness for the pandemic, but thank goodness that I was forced in isolation. Because not that I wouldn't have done the work on myself, but I think I would have distracted myself more and maybe got off path with the work that I needed to do, which was I absolutely had to be alone. I think everybody should spend time alone. You have to know that no matter what, you will be fine and happy alone. And that's what Brett always said to me. Like, he had so many hobbies. He had no problem going and doing things that he enjoyed by himself if he wasn't dating someone at the time. And you have to be okay saying, if I never get married, I will be okay. Because if you don't meet that right person and you settle, we all know why the divorce rate is so high, right? Every second person I talk to seems to be contemplating or going through a divorce. And part of that, I am going to argue, maybe I'm wrong, but part of that I think is people settle, or people don't want to be alone, or, biological clocks are ticking. And absolutely, like, hi, I'm sure I've settled in my life. I know I have, because it seemed like the easier path for me. And that's what I admire so, so, so much. Wow. It just has changed so many mindsets of mine. Mindsets about money, mindsets about just like what true happiness in life means and where you can get that from. How important it is to live every day, because tomorrow is not promised. Someone always has it worse than you. Be thankful that you have a roof over your head. When I was a single mother, there were some scary freaking times. When, yeah, we'll just say that. And if you have a roof over your head and someone who loves you, you are ahead of a lot of people, more than you know. And then with that, if you have that, and you have hobbies, and you have things that bring you joy, whether you're alone or in a relationship, that is what life is about. And so, it just really made me think about money is important in so that it can keep you safe. And beyond that, sure, you can buy a fishing boat and that will make you happy. You can buy a camper, which we are doing. But to cut costs on other things like hotels or to help you achieve more joy. And if a goal of yours is to get out more in nature and this camper allows you to do that, then that is a good use of your money. But not having a house that makes you house poor, not having brand name purses, brand name cars, brand name shoes. Yes, do we like to go out to dinner and look nice and dress up? Yes, but so different from the things that I used to value. And just the feeling of safety and unconditional love and the simplistic way of life. So refreshing. So refreshing. With that, we're going to take a little bit of a break to hear some ads and some Ask the Teacher Anything questions. I wonder if I need to rename that segment when I'm not a teacher anymore. Maybe that's where I should put the sauna talks. Let me know, please, what you think. If you have a new title for Ask the Teacher Anything, because I only have 40 more days of being a teacher when I'm recording this. And, what I should replace it with or what I should call it or if I should do something else. And I need to steel myself, brace myself for my third teacher after our break. So we'll be back, hopefully keep my composure. 100% of men and women have hormones. And with the increased presence of processed foods and environmental toxins, it's more important than ever to make mindful choices in the products we use every day. That's why I trust Hue & Grace, high-performing, clean products designed to support hormone health while reducing exposure to harmful chemicals. Because this topic has been my primary focus since ending birth control in 2024 in an attempt to regulate my changing midlife hormones, after making healthy swaps in my diet, personal care products, and exercise routine, I've been able to lower my dose of anxiety medication I once relied very heavily on, and have restored balance to my nervous system and cleared up the brain fog I was experiencing in perimenopause. Hue & Grace has played a key role in this transformation, offering safe, effective, non-toxic solutions that support my wellness journey. If you listened to episode 16 with certified Mayo Clinic health and wellness coach Tracy Danielson Mitchell, you heard her talk about the importance of hormone health. To share with you everything I did throughout my journey to balance my hormones, I did a deep dive on my Live and Learn Patreon about all of the tests and supplements that I use in order to navigate this journey in my 50s. To find this episode, you can just visit patreon.com/liveandlearn. Some of my favorite products I use every day include Hue & Grace's Hydrate and Detox that contains powerful antioxidants, electrolytes, and prebiotic fiber. Their popular blue drink you see me drinking on Instagram is their Triple Boost Hormone Support Protein Powder with blue spirulina that I mix with their daily collagen supplement. I also keep my skin hydrated and smooth with their spray-on body oil. I love putting this on before going out, and it gives my aging skin a more dewy look. I've also switched out my hair care products to Hugh and Grace's Your Best Hair Day line, with all natural ingredients that help nourish my hair and stretch out time between washes. If you're on this journey with me and are interested in exploring Hugh and Grace's trusted non-toxic products, for 10% off and free shipping, you can use my discount link at hughandgrace.com/lessonplan and reach out anytime via email at nextlessonplan@gmail.com with questions. Live and learn with me as we focus on living fully and feeling our best. Visit hughandgrace.com/lessonplan to see how easy it is to start making some healthy swaps on your way to non-toxic living. To those of you who have followed me for a while, you know that I value mental and physical wellness. Personally, I've worked with a few different coaches over the years and even been one myself. If you are looking for education and support in your own wellness journey, I would love to invite you to the wellness community I am currently in that keeps me accountable daily with my nutrition and movement. If you are a Facebook user, you can search for our free group called Team MG. This group is led by my coach, Megan Grimaud, who is a certified trainer and nutrition coach. She offers lots of education and support for your wellness journey. If you want to get to know Coach Megan more, you can follow her on Instagram at all lowercase Megan, MEGAN _Grimaud, GRIMORD, or even listen to her on episode 10 of the podcast. She has also created a discount code for my listeners. Just go to her website, www.team-mg.com, and enter code LessonPlan10 to get $10 off any of her premium coaching packages for the first month. Coach Megan is a busy mom like me who works full-time, so I appreciate her practicality mixed with some tough love to keep me going. It is Ask the Teacher Anything time. So, first question. How do you keep the balance between structured content and natural conversation? I was not good at this in the beginning. I'm probably still not good at this, but I know that I feel more comfortable now. A lot of my guest podcasts follow generally the same sort of outline, which I do share with my guests ahead of time so they know where the conversation will go. But oftentimes now I've been straying from that a little bit because I'm so interested in things that they're saying. And if I think that I have a question that other people might have and want to hear the answer to, then I sort of add that into the conversation. So I've been a little less, I won't say less structured, but I've allowed myself to stray, I would say, from the outline a little bit. In my solo episodes, I've definitely been doing less scripting because I think the more personal they've gotten, that's just stuff off the top of my head. Some of them I do a little bit more research for, and I have some facts and things that I'm borrowing that I want to get right. So I have an outline in front of me. And, you know, those maybe sound a little bit more scripted. Today, I definitely had an outline and had thought about what I wanted to talk about, but I've been up since 10 to 4 this morning because I had to help do inventory at my second job. And this podcast is due tomorrow. It's the latest I've ever done a podcast before it's supposed to go on. So, you know, most of this is just off the top of my head, which is good. I think people who've been doing podcasting a long time, that's why people like them, because it's more natural and authentic and vulnerable. So I think I've gotten better with, you know, hopefully it sounding a little bit more natural. Question number 2, how will you define success for yourself when you're no longer a teacher? Yeah, great question. I stopped chasing success as a teacher quite a while ago. I would say just before the pandemic, or even maybe when the pandemic hit, because it changed so much of what we could do, but also just, again, change my perspective and like, you know, what's important to chase after, and, you know, maybe why I was feeling so burnt out. And during the pandemic, I was asked to step in to teach at Mount Mary university at night. They needed some help for 2 years. It ended up being teaching their journalism class there, their news magazine and their website. And so I was teaching during the day, during, pandemic, off and on, in person, at home. And same thing at Mount Mary, going through a divorce, going through a pandemic. And, that was kind of a different measure of success. I did not apply for that job. Someone literally called me and said, "Hey, we need help. Are you still in the area? I thought of you." And I was like, dang, pretty cool. Someone also reached out to me during the pandemic and was starting a company and needed a wellness blogger who could write and also was interested in wellness. And I did that for like a year during the pandemic. And to me, it was like, all right, this is like a different measure of people are seeking me out to do things that they need because of my skills. And I think that's exactly how my next chapter came to be. They did not have a job posted. I went to them and said, "Hey, I'm leaving teaching and I'm exploring opportunities. And, here is my skill set." They did know me a little bit or know of me. Do you think I could be of help to you? And we basically spent months and are near the end now of negotiating just like how could they use my skills. And so I think that's how I will define my success is like, am I still being of value based on the skills that I have? I always love to learn and grow. So am I continuing to learn new things and to grow and to be of value to a company? I have a whole classroom full of awards. I have, a resume full of accolades and burnout to show for it. And some very great stories and relationships, obviously. Many of my guests were part of that journey. But, I would say to anybody, to them, to myself, now is like, do you enjoy what you're doing? And I did at the time, for the most part. It became harder at the end. So my success will be learning, as much as I can each day, using my skills and adding to my toolkit of skills and enjoying what I'm doing. And at my going away party last week from school, when I started talking to some people about what I was going to be doing and mentioning the names of my new bosses, everybody was like, "Oh, what?" They're like so fun and so energetic. And I was like, I know. That's, a huge perk. Like, I'm really excited to work for people. They are all siblings. It is a family business. They are uber talented and fun and prioritize their family relationships first over their business and have been really successful doing that. And I'm just so looking forward to hopefully osmosis, getting their energy and enthusiasm. And I'm going to have a huge learning curve. And I love learning and learning something. I learned yearbook from the ground up 11 years ago. This will also involve some things yearbook as well. Almost signed on the dotted line, and I'll be able to tell you for sure soon. And so, that's, I think, how I'll measure success in my next chapter. You can submit questions, as always, on social media or on our website at lifesnextlessonplan.com. Please, please, please tell me what I should name this segment. Ask the teacher anything. Ask the former teacher anything. I don't know. Please, please, please send me your ideas because I'll need help. We're back, and I can't put it off any longer, but I'm kind of dreading this part of the podcast a little bit. Maybe with that said, I'm going to probably keep it shorter than my normal rambling self, just because I think a lot of it would be better on Patreon, but I always want to be 100% honest. And, I am who I am, and I'm learning a lot about other people who maybe have experienced some of the same things that I have. And I think it's really important for us to share and be honest about what we've been through, because the one thing, as a teacher, is that if you can help one person through teaching or through sharing your stories, then it's worth it. I'll just say that what I chose as my third and final teacher for this segment would be two people. And I'm, working on forgiveness, because we do the best we can at the time with what we know, and we all make mistakes. We'll just say that. And so this isn't a judgment in any way. And I think, it's also a lesson in, if you can do better, when you know you can do better, then do better. And some people take advantage of that and some people don't. But long story short, I would say my biological parents have taught me many things. We can't choose our family. I've said it once and I'll say it a million times, and have said it a million times. There were many times in my life growing up that I said, and felt like, if you didn't want to have me as a child, maybe my life would have been better off not lived. I don't believe that today, but because of the way I grew up, and, again, if any of you were mistake children and you knew full well and it was thrown in your face that you were a mistake child, therapy, and, you can get over that in some ways, but it does continue to come up, and I'm learning more and more about, even though you feel like you've put your past or your childhood behind you, it definitely affects you when you're older. But I will say, it does not matter where you come from. It matters where you're going. And I definitely learned an important lesson, that you can only rely on yourself. And if you want something, you have to get it for yourself. There will be people along the way to support you, maybe not the people you thought. But huge lesson. The same thing I, wanted to say earlier with, you have to be okay being alone. You have to be okay leaning on yourself. And you have to enjoy your own company, because you'll never heal if that's not the case. And so a lot of work goes into that. And holy cow, I've overcome so much. Also, family is a very loose definition. Blood is blood, and blood is supposed to equal family, but it doesn't all the time. And family isn't always healthy. And if at some point you think you would be healthier and better with stronger boundaries, it is okay to put yourself first and your mental well-being first, because hurt people hurt people. And I heard it from two therapists in my last relationship. Marriage counselors always say every marriage is solvable and fixable if both parties are willing to change and work. Sometimes some people think they are right all the time, and the other person is wrong, and the other person is to blame. And this isn't about my marriage. This is about family. But some people will never be wrong. And anything you try to do will come up short. And again, I'm not going to say too much, except that I have said that I did not meet my biological dad until I was in college. And that was a short relationship, and probably, very overwhelming because of the stage of life that I was in at the time. And I understand that. I wish I would have done better at that time. It is what it is. All of this to say is, we teach people how to treat us. We are allowed to make choices in our lives about who we surround ourselves with. And I just think, communication is so important. And if you are feeling something, express it. And depending on how that is met, make your decisions accordingly. And I am no expert. This is not something that is easy for me or for anyone. But over time, I think, your intuition, we talk a lot about intuition on this podcast. And if you follow your gut and you know what is right is sometimes hard. So again, we're focusing on, what people have taught us. And sometimes, lessons are hard to learn. There is a lesson in everything. There's a lesson in every single relationship. And decisions can change. Some people can change. And I hope if you are wrestling with similar type situations, that you are able to find support and guidance for seeing your way through that. Okay, so for our action steps today, I mentioned this earlier, but I like these questions that Siri had in her book about what have you learned in the last 90 days. Maybe that's attached to a person, maybe it's not. And then looking ahead to, what you might learn in the next 90 days. I would say personally, I learned to trust my gut. I've learned about the power of decisions and the role of energy in the universe. I've learned so much from the guests that I've had recently on the podcast who I've never met in person. Laura, Tracy, one coming up who you haven't met yet, Betsy. Wow. Amazing stories, and just could have talked to them for hours and hours and hours. And I think such interesting shifts happen once, you make a big decision and once you put yourself out there and you go for it. I mean, I've said it before, I knew, even though I was not ready to resign, I did not have a job lined up, I did not know what I was going to do, I just knew I had to do it. Things started to happen once I did that. Because for years before that, even though I was applying for jobs and testing out the waters outside of teaching, when things didn't fall the way I wanted them to, I'll just go back. And I think, you know yourself best, but I knew that I'm a grinder. I find answers, and I work until something works out. And so I really learned in the last 90 days that if you want to make something happen, you can. Make a list, make a vision board, make a tough decision, and force yourself into a corner to make it happen. And these recent podcast guests have all been through that. And I know Laura Flowers, I love her podcast, Rediscovering You. She talks a lot about intuition and energy. And that's part of her job as a life coach and a Reiki master. But I won't say I was skeptical about it. I just hadn't seen proof of it necessarily in my own life. And now I have. And so for the next 90 days, I mentioned this already, I'm so excited to learn a new career. I'm so excited to have new bosses. I mean, 29 years of doing the same career, although I've learned a lot of new things in that career, it's going to be terrifying and exciting at the same time. And I'm sure a different level of exhausting. I'm going to be shifting into a new identity, as a career, and a big shift at home with my daughter going on to college. And so there's going to be a lot to learn. This is a very pivotal point in my life. And so I'm excited. And I want you to really think about the teachers that you've had. Again, maybe you've learned what to do or what not to do. What have you learned just in the last 90 days? And is it attached to a person, or is it just a sort of a journey you've been on? And what can you learn in the next 90 days? And again, we are in charge of our own destiny. And so that can be a really exciting journey. Thank you so much for joining me today as I unpack the lessons from some of the most unexpected but deeply influential teachers in my life. From Grandma Weibel's quiet wisdom to the unconventional clarity Brett offers just by being himself, and even the hard but necessary lessons from my biological parents. Every one of them has helped shape how I move through the world. Whether someone shows you who you want to become or who you don't want to be, there's a lesson in every interaction if we're willing to pay attention. I hope this episode inspired you to reflect on your own mentors and moments of growth. Maybe even you write down who's been shaping you on purpose or by accident and what they've taught you. And as we step into our next 90 days together, ask yourself, what am I meant to learn right now? And who might be showing up to teach me, even if I don't recognize it yet? If you love this conversation, be sure to subscribe, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and I'd love it if you'd leave a review. Just scroll all the way down on Apple Podcasts and click Leave a Review. It helps the show more than you know. Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and keep leaning into your life's next lesson plan.